when history actually comes to pass, and he's no longer in office, and people really start, except for the extreme leftists, who some, because you got some people on the extreme left that think Jimmy Carter was a good president. But other than that, that's ridiculous fringe. I don't think you're going to find many people that are going to, in like, say, 50 years from now, are going to say Barack Hussein Obama was one of our better presidents. He's not going down in history like that, no matter how he's trying. He probably doesn't even care. He just likes the ride. He likes to travel. He likes the power. He likes his ability to try to take this country down a notch or two. Turn it into a more socialistic type of environment. You know, he likes people being dependent on government. Because he's the type of person that believes that, you know, government's where it's at. It's not the American people. Government is where it's at. Double dip. Double dip. This is an LATimes.com piece. Los Angeles Times in the business section. Eurozone falls back into recession. There's a photo here of protesters converging in Barcelona in opposition to austerity cuts. They have a flag of a pair of scissors with the red slash through it. And no more cuts, but Eurozone unemployment hits a record high of 11.6%. The Eurozone is back in a recession, its first in 3 years, as gross domestic product for the debt-plagued 17-nation bloc contracted 0.1% in the third quarter from the earlier quarter. In the second quarter, the currency collective tightened 0.2%, according to the official European Union statistics agency, Eurostat. 2 consecutive quarterly slips make a recession. Now, compared with the year earlier, GDP is down 0.6%. Eurostat said last month that unemployment in the bloc was at a record high of 11.6%. Now, understand that this is only for the Eurozone, and the Eurozone is not that old. So protests, which is why the record is so low for 11.6, but it's only going to go up. It's only going to go up. Now, protests and strikes rippled across Europe on Wednesday. Now, why am I even bringing up the Eurozone? Because it has a direct correlation of what could happen here if our president gets his way. If the liberal Democrats get their way. I mean, you already got some people saying, well, we don't get the tax hikes, then we should just let the country go over the fiscal cliff. Yeah, that, you want to talk about not caring about people. Now, I don't know any conservative that says, well, let's just go over the fiscal cliff then. Because, you know, we say, no, you hold fast to no tax increases. Get the spending under control. We don't need more revenue until we learn how to do. You know, what happens when you have a child and you give that child an allowance? The child says, Mommy, Daddy, I need a raise in my allowance. And you tell them, well, no, you got to learn how to, I'm not going to give you $10 a week until you learn how to deal with the $5 a week. You're not dealing with the $5 a week very well. Learn to deal with it. I mean, this, we know this to be true. This mentality, this belief system is true. Look what happens to a lot of instant lottery mega millionaires. They're broke in about 7 or 8 years because they didn't learn how to handle it in smaller increments. They just got it all at once, and then they end up blowing it. Well, more money isn't going to help them. More money is not going to help our government. Our government has got to learn how to live within its means. And once it gets that under control, its spending and living within its means, then we can talk about possibly giving them more money. But you know what? If they're responsible in their spending, they won't need more money. Let me repeat that. If our government was responsible and efficient in its spending, it wouldn't need higher taxes. It wouldn't need more revenue. What part of this do you liberals not understand? If you responsibly spend, you should not need more revenue. Because if you're getting the biggest bang for your buck already, and you're living within your means, why would you need more? It's not like an individual, well, I want a better lifestyle. Yeah, yes, I can live within my means at $30,000, but I want a better lifestyle, so I want to make $40,000. That's not the job of government. Government can't say, well, we can do well with $1 trillion, but we should, we'd like to see what we can do with $2 trillion. No. That's not the way government should be operated. But instead, the government is saying, well, we got $1 trillion, but we're going to spend like we got $2 trillion on our way to $3 trillion, because that's what we really want to spend is 3. Well, I know we only got 1, though. No, learn how to spend 1 first, $1 trillion. They don't do that. So this is why you get into trouble. Governments get in trouble. The Eurozone is in trouble. There are some economists who are starting to say that the Eurozone will fall apart. It will disassemble. Now, I don't. Are there any prophecies about the new Roman Empire falling apart so quickly? Because this is what some people are saying. The Eurozone is the new Roman Empire, and if you look at all the countries that are involved, except for the African and Asian part of the European part of the Roman Empire, that's pretty much the Eurozone. That's what it's looking like. New Roman Empire. Fine. But were there I don't know. I know about certain predictions that were biblical and non-biblical of the rise of the Roman Empire, and that's what people think the Eurozone is. But are there any predictions, or I don't think I've seen any biblical predictions of the fall of the Second Roman Empire, other than Armageddon. But yeah, in Armageddon, everything falls apart. So that's not just the Eurozone. I don't know if there's any. If there are any, maybe somebody can look it up and tell me. I don't know if there are any old Nostradamus type predictions about the demise of the Eurozone outside of World War III or Armageddon. Because that Armageddon, World War III, everything's done. So the United States is done, Canada's done. Europe is done, and Asia's done, Africa, it's all done, so it doesn't matter. But outside of that, I don't know of any predictions of the Eurozone demise. Here, they're taking apart the state of Maine's GOP chairman for his statements about blacks voting in Maine. Now, one of the things that he said that he thinks that there may have been some shenanigans because he doesn't have any actual or physical proof, which he probably should have just taken pictures, but it's probably illegal to take pictures or something like where he saw these people. But he said he was getting reports and that he saw a lot of blacks voting in Maine, and that they most likely voted for Obama. And you have people out there saying that, that's just racist. And now this chair said it's unusual to see black people voting, but that's not what he's saying. What he was saying is that he thought it was unusual to see so many black people voting in Maine, considering there are hardly any blacks living in the state of Maine. So he was wondering if there was some shenanigans going on there, if people were being bussed in. Because basically he was saying that, look, I'm not really a racist, but we kind of noticed that there are an awful lot of black people voting here in Maine. Now, frankly, there aren't a lot of black people in Maine. There aren't a lot of black people in New Hampshire or Vermont either. So if there was all of a sudden an awful lot of blacks voting in the three northern New England states, even I would say kind of unusual. I mean, come on, when you live well, Maine is not as wide as Vermont, but it's wider than New Hampshire. But when you live in a white state, you kind of notice non-whites. They kind of stick out. That's just, I'm sorry, I'm going to be honest. It is. They do. It's like me going to, it's like me going skiing. I remember my best friend in high school saying that because, it's kind of funny to see you out here on the slopes. And I'm like, why? Do you see any other black people out here, Rod, skiing? I'm like, nope, I'm the only one. Yeah, I stuck out. I was the only black person on the mountain. We don't do a lot of, I guess blacks don't do, at least back then, didn't do a hell of a lot of skiing. It was nothing racist about it. It was just an obvious observation. So here's this guy. It says, he's not coming out and saying that there's any fraud, but he just says, since there aren't a whole hell of a lot of blacks that live in Maine, it's kind of unusual to have so many of them being reported voting here. How is that possible? But no, you got the left who's going to, try to paint this guy as a racist and needs to be removed from his seat, and he needs to resign, and he needs to be, tarred and feathered and all that kind of stuff. When all he's saying, I get exactly what he's saying, and he's dead on. Dead on. The head of Maine's Republican Party defended himself again today over comments he made about black people committing voter fraud in his state. Now, in an interview with TPM, which is TalkingPointsMemo.com, Charlie Webster said his remarks earlier in the week had been misinterpreted as racist, but he still insisted it was unusual to see so many black voters at the polls in an overwhelmingly white state. Bingo! Where do all these black people live? I got to tell you, unless they're living in Portland or something, I visit southern Maine, quite a bit. You go up the, you got Short Sands and Long Sands Beach, you got York Beach, you got Algonquin Beach, all this. I visit Maine, southern Maine like that. I got to tell you, I don't see a lot of blacks there. I don't see them. And I definitely see, the ones that I do see, they're not driving vehicles with Maine license plates. They're usually driving vehicles with Massachusetts tags, but I don't see a lot of people that are black. I probably have seen more Latinos with Maine license plates. No, not probably. I have seen more Latinos with Maine license plates than blacks. There aren't a lot of black people African Americans living in Maine. For whatever reason, they just don't go there. Maybe it's too cold. I would, I don't know. Would you live in Caribou? In Bangor? I sure as hell wouldn't. I don't know why even white people live all, that far north where it gets that damn cold. That's ridiculous. But hey, they want to, fine. You don't see blacks doing it. So when he says it's kind of unusual to see that many, considering, the makeup of the state, there probably aren't that many that live in the state, so why are they voting here? Did anybody ever stop to think? I thought it was all about the seriousness of the charge. I guess when it's a charge being made against you,